I still remember the cold sting of the airport. Tiles under my shoes and the way the air smelled like overpriced coffee and exhaustion, where voices all around, rolling suitcase wheels clicking, like clock hands ticking, ticking, ticking. But all I could hear was the silence inside my own chest. That and the echo of my mother's heels as she walked away. I was 15. Old enough to pack my own bag, old enough to carry my passport, but apparently not old enough to matter. She didn't look back. That's what haunts me the most. Not the lies she told me leading up to that moment, not the casual way she handed me my boarding pass and told me I'd catch up with her later. Not even the fact that she vanished without a word once I passed security. It was that she didn't even glance over her shoulder. Like leaving me behind was as routine as locking the front door. I keep replaying those last 20 minutes before she disappeared, as if somehow I'll catch some sign, some clue that she hesitated, that she had even the slightest flicker of remorse. But there was nothing. Just red lipstick, a fresh blowout, and sunglasses too big for her face, like she was trying to hide from me even then. She told me we were going to Dubai, a girls' trip. She called it just the two of us. At first, I was excited. Never done anything like that with me before. Usually I was left with my aunt or a nanny while she chased some new man or spa retreat. So when she said it was just for us, I thought, maybe this time would be different. God, I was stupid. She booked the flights online and waved her phone around to prove it. She made me pack vacation clothes and even let me borrow her coral pink suitcase. That should have been the first clue. My mother never let me touch her things. But I was so desperate to feel special, I didn't question it. She seemed happy. I remember thinking that. She laughed a lot those 2 days before the trip. She let me stay up late and even made pancakes the morning of our flight. It felt like I had a real mom. But now I know it wasn't joy. It was guilt disguised as generosity. When we arrived at the airport, she was on her phone the whole time, whispering and giggling, shielding the screen from me. I told myself it was just her being private, like always. Maybe texting a friend, be Dad. Except Dad left when I was 7. He didn't even send birthday cards. She hated him for that least, that's what she said. But now that I'm older, I wonder if maybe he was just the first one to escape. At check-in, she gave my passport to the agent like it weighed nothing, like I was just a tag-along. She barely smiled for the photo they took at the security gate. Then, as we stood in line for TSA, she glanced at her phone, nodded to herself, and leaned down toward me. Sweetheart, she said, I need to go talk to someone quickly. Just go ahead through security. I'll meet you at the gate, okay? I nodded, clutching my ticket and passport like they were lifelines. I didn't even ask who she was meeting. I was used to her disappearing for a few minutes here and there. Usually she came back with a Starbucks drink and a new pair of sunglasses. But that time, she didn't. I sat at the gate for almost 2 hours, kept telling myself she was just delayed. Maybe she lost her phone or ran into a friend. I checked the boarding pass over and over again. Her name wasn't on it, just mine. I asked the airline desk if they could check for her reservation. They said she wasn't booked on the flight. I asked if she was booked on a later one. Nothing. Panic started in my toes and worked its way up. I called her straight to voicemail. I texted, nothing. I checked every woman who passed by, thinking maybe she changed outfits or took off her sunglasses. But they all walked past me like I was invisible. And then it hit me. She never intended to come. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. Maybe she booked the wrong ticket. Maybe she had an emergency. Maybe she was mugged, or had a panic attack, or got lost. But even as I thought those things, I knew. I knew because I remembered the way she hugged me goodbye that morning. It wasn't tight. It wasn't lingering. It was the kind of hug you give someone you won't see again, but don't want them to notice. I was shaking. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. There wasn't a how to handle being abandoned at an airport by your own mother manual. I went to the bathroom and sat in a stall, trying not to cry too loud. I could hear a little girl next door complaining to her mom that the soap smelled weird. Her mom laughed and said, "That's what you get for sticking your nose in everything." I wanted to trade places with that little girl. Eventually, an airline agent found me crying near the seating area. She was kind. She had short hair and smelled like vanilla hand sanitizer. I told her my mom hadn't come back, and she tried to call the emergency contact on my ticket. It was my aunt. "Thank God," she answered. I don't remember what I said, just that the words came out like a flood. The agent took the phone and explained what happened more calmly. My aunt told her she'd be on the next flight out. They didn't let me on the plane to Dubai, obviously. I was 15, alone, and didn't even know where I was staying once I got there. Turns out the hotel my mom said we'd booked didn't have any record of us. She never planned a trip. She just wanted me out of the way. My aunt arrived the next day. She flew in from Chicago. The hug she gave me at the arrival's gate is something I'll never forget. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't. The same as a mother's hug, but it was real. Solid. Anchoring. She didn't ask too many questions. Just helped me carry my things, bought me a warm pretzel and juice. And we sat in the car in silence for a while before driving to her hotel. That night I cried so hard I thought I'd stop breathing. I remember looking at the ceiling and asking, out loud, why me? Why would my own mother leave me like that? Why didn't I matter? And the scariest part was, no answer came. It's strange, the way one moment can slice your life clean in two. There was before the airport, and then there was after. Before, I was the girl who made excuses for her mom. After, I was the girl who didn't have any left. After my aunt brought me back to her place in Chicago, I spent the first few days in a fog. I barely spoke. She gave me space. Bless her heart. She didn't try to smother me with questions or sympathy. Just brought me warm food, let me sleep in, and left the hallway light on at night without asking. I tried to tell myself this was just temporary, that mom would call any minute, explain everything, beg me to come back. But the days passed. Then, a week, then another. No calls, no messages, no apology, not even a pathetic excuse. Eventually, I did what I swore I wouldn't. I looked her up on Instagram. I hadn't followed her in months, she said. I ruined her vibe with my constant comments, and there she was. In all her airbrushed glory, glass of champagne in hand, rooftop view behind her, captioned with some quote about living your best life and hashtags like hashtag no regrets and hashtag Dubai dreams. I stared at that post for a long time. Her smile looked too wide, too practiced. And for the first time, I didn't feel sad. I felt ... sick. She was smiling, posing, thriving while I was curled up in a borrowed bed trying to figure out why I wasn't enough. I don't think I realized how deep the betrayal cut until then, because this wasn't just abandonment. This was abandonment with a smile. It wasn't like she had a breakdown, or lost track of time or made a terrible mistake. No, she planned it. Every bit of it. From the fake boarding pass to the lies about the hotel. She deliberately left me at the airport like a suitcase she no longer wanted to carry, and no adult. No friend, no family member could explain that away. My aunt didn't even try. One evening, she just sat next to me on the couch, handed me a cup of tea, and said softly, "You deserved better." From day one, that broke me more than anything else, because it was the truth I had spent years trying not to see. I kept remembering things from my childhood that made no sense before but did now. Like the way she used to complain about me ruining her body, even in front of strangers. The way she'd flinch if I cried too loudly in public, as if my pain embarrassed her. The way she'd always dress me like a little adult, not because I liked it, but because she wanted people to say how stylish. Her daughter was everything about me had always been for her. A prop, a project, a proof of her motherhood, not the product of it. I was never the point, just the accessory. I think that's when the anger started to rise. Quiet at first, like a pilot light, but steady. I stopped waiting for her call, stopped hoping. Instead, I started writing it all down. Every moment, every lie. Every time she left me at daycare late, or forgot a parent-teacher conference, or introduced me to a new uncle. With that fake laugh and too much perfume, I wrote like my life depended on it because, in a way, it did. I needed to see it. Black and white. I needed proof that I hadn't imagined it, that I wasn't just being dramatic or ungrateful, because, for so long, That's what she made me believe. That I was too much, too sensitive, too clingy, too demanding. But as I filled, page after page, something in me shifted. I realized I wasn't the problem. She was. And once I said it out loud, first just to the mirror, then to my therapist. Yes, my aunt found me one. Bless her again. I couldn't unsee it. I wasn't abandoned because I was unlovable. I was abandoned because she didn't know how to love. She only knew how to take. And when I stopped giving, stopped being the quiet, compliant, always smiling daughter, she didn't want me anymore. My therapist helped me unpack a lot of that. Her name was Valerie. Middle-aged, curly hair, soft eyes. The first session, I didn't say much. Just sat there and tried not to cry. But she waited. She let the silence be mine. And eventually the words spilled out. All of them. She never flinched. Never told me I was being unfair. Never tried to defend my mother. She just said that was not your fault. I believed her. Slowly I started putting myself back together. Not into who I was before that version of me was built on sand, but into someone real. Someone solid. I started school again. A new one. I was the new girl, of course. And some kids whispered. I ignored them, but they thought couldn't touch. Me. I made one friend, Ava. She was weird and loud and obsessed with old horror movies. She found me reading alone during lunch and said, "You look like you need to yell at the universe. Want to come over and scream into a pillow?" That was our first hangout. It helped more than I thought it would. I started to laugh again, started to breathe without feeling like I was stealing air, but still at night. Sometimes I'd dream I was back at the airport, watching her walk away, running after her, screaming her name, only for my voice to vanish, swallowed by the white noise of intercoms and suitcase wheels. I'd wake up gasping, sweating. 15 again? I wondered if that would ever stop then. About 5 months later, she finally called. I didn't recognize the number. I answered. Her voice was sugar-coated. "Too cheerful, sweetie. I've been trying to reach you forever. I lost my phone crazy story on, then I got sick, and everything was just so chaotic. But I finally have everything sorted. I'm in. Paris now? You'd love it." I was silent. She kept going. "Anyway, I wanted to know when I could fly you out to see me. I've got a beautiful place right by the Seine. It's so artistic. You always loved art, right? She didn't ask how. I was. She didn't ask where I was. She just assumed I'd come running. And for a second, I wanted to. Not because I missed her. Not because I forgave her. But because I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, "Why did you do it?" She paused. A long pause. "Then do what, baby?" I hung up. And that was the last time I spoke to her. But sometimes, even now, when I walk, past a mother holding her daughter's hand tightly at a mall, or kissing her forehead at a bus stop, something in me aches. I wonder what it would have been like to be wanted, not used, not displayed, but wanted. That's a wound I don't think will ever fully close, but I'm healing and I'm writing it all down, because someone out there needs to hear it. Maybe it's a 15-year-old girl sitting alone at an airport right now.
Hey, wondering?
Why her mom won't pick up the phone. And if you're reading this, it's not your fault. It never was. It's been 2 years since the airport. 2 years since my mother walked away from me without a word, without a goodbye, without a sliver of remorse. And yet, still lives in me. Not like an open wound anymore, but like a scar I've stopped trying to hide. Some days I forget it's there. Other days it pulses when I least expect it, watching a movie where the mom sacrifices everything for her child. Or when I see a friend run into their mother's arms after a long trip. It's the part of me that still wants to be held, still wants to believe in unconditional love. It stirs like a ghost I can't bury. But now I know. I don't need her love to survive, because I've learned how to breathe without her. My aunt, Julia, she's the one who saved me. Not with grand gestures or endless therapy sessions, though she gave me those too. She saved me with presence, with patience, with the quiet, consistent kind of love that doesn't make headlines. She took me in when no one else did. Ask for anything in return. Didn't even hesitate. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repay that. She says I don't need to. That me standing on my own 2 feet is enough, but still I try. I started helping around the house, not because she asked, but because I wanted to. I learned how to cook a few simple meals, took care of her plants when she traveled, kept the fridge stocked with her favorite tea. I started to feel like I belonged. Like this house wasn't just a stopgap at a home. It wasn't perfect. Some nights I still cried. Some days I still panicked when my phone rang, terrified it was her again. But little by little, I got stronger. Valerie, my therapist, helped too. She didn't try to rush me into healing. She let me unfold slowly, like a letter never meant to be read aloud. Sometimes our sessions were quiet, sometimes they were full of rage. I remember one day I told her I felt like I was broken, like something inside me had been snapped in half. At the airport, and would never grow back the same way. She smiled gently and said, "Things don't have to grow back the same to be beautiful." That line stayed with me. I started painting again. I used to love it when I was little, before Mom made fun of my messy drawings and told me to focus on things that would actually get me somewhere. But Aunt Julia turned one corner of the guest room into a tiny studio for me. It became my sanctuary. I painted what I couldn't say. Airports with no faces, mothers with blurred out eyes. A girl standing in a storm with her arms wide open, waiting for the thunder. I didn't post them. I didn't sell them, just made them. And somehow, every brushstroke felt like taking something back. Then came senior year. I had a decision to make. College was looming. I'd been quiet about my future for a long time, and sure if I even had one. But one night, Julia sat across from me at dinner and asked, "What do you want?" It stunned me. No one had asked that before. Not really, Mom. Used to ask what I could do for her, what I'd wear, how I'd act, what would make her look good. But this was different. I stared at my plate for a long time before I whispered, "I think I want to study art." She smiled. "Then you will." Was it no guilt, no laughter, no be realistic, just support? So I applied, and I got in a small liberal arts college not too far away, with a decent art program and even better financial aid. When the acceptance letter came in, I cried. Not because I doubted myself, but because for the first time, I had something that was mine. A future. A path. A choice Mom still hadn't reached out again. Not after that last phone call. But that didn't stop the letters. Yes, dash letters. A few months after I started therapy, I began writing to her, not to send them. Just to say the things I never got to. They sat in a shoebox under my bed. Dozens of pages, all in my cramped, angry handwriting. Some were furious. Some begged for answers. Some just mourned. Because even if I didn't want her back, I still grieved the idea of her. The mother I thought she could be. Grieving someone who's still alive is a special kind of pain. It feels like screaming into a mirror and waiting for someone else's reflection to appear. But I had to let it out somewhere. A few months before graduation, Julia found the box. She didn't open it. Just sat beside me and placed her hand on mine. "You know," she said, "you don't owe her forgiveness, but you also don't have to carry this weight forever." That night I burned some of the letters. Not all, just the ones I didn't. Want to give any more space in my mind? I cried as the flames ate my words, turned them to smoke and ash, but afterward I slept better. Graduation came faster than I expected. I wore a navy gown. Julia cried when she saw me in it. I didn't even try to stop her. Ava was there too, screaming my name when I walked across the stage. That moment, surrounded by people who chose me, who stayed when they didn't have 2AI, felt something break loose inside me. Not pain. It's not grief. Relief. That night, I sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, sipping lemonade with Julia as the sun set behind the house. I looked over at her and said, "You saved me." She smiled. "No, you saved yourself. I just gave you the room to do it." That's when I knew I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. The week after graduation, a postcard came in the mail. No return address, just a skyline of New York and 4 words in shaky handwriting. "I'm sorry, Mom." I stared at it. For a long time, no explanation, no promise. Just that Julia saw it on the counter later and didn't say a word. She just picked it up, read it, and slid it back under the pile of mail. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't write back either. Because some doors need to stay closed. Not out of hatred, but out of healing. I've learned that not every wound needs revisiting. Not every pain needs to be reopened. Some things are better left where they belong, in the past. Now, I'm packing for college. My room's full of boxies, paint supplies, sketchbooks, sweaters, secondhand books. Julia bought me a new backpack. Ava made me a playlist. Valerie gave me a blank journal, and me. I gave myself a promise that I will build a life rooted in truth, not performance, not pretending, not pleasing anyone who doesn't see me, but truth. Because I may have been abandoned once, but I was never broken, and I will never let her take anything from me again. I used to think closure would come in a single, earth-shaking moment. Maybe she'd show up on my doorstep with tears in her eyes. Maybe she'd beg. Maybe she'd kneel. Sob, tell me I was everything, that she was sorry, that she didn't mean to leave. But that's not how it happens. Real closure doesn't crash through your door. Sneaks in quietly when you least expect it, when you realize you no longer need the apology. When you're too busy building something better to keep staring at the wreckage behind you. I found mine in the smallest of ways. Like the way I smiled at a barista and meant it. The way I let a friend see me cry and didn't apologize. The way I painted something messy and honest. And for once didn't care if it was good. Our first semester of college was hard. I was used to quiet rooms and guarded silences, not buzzing dorms and shared spaces. My roommate Jenna was kind but loud. She had a laugh that cracked windows and a way of hugging people like it was a reflex. At first I flinched, then I didn't. Because people like her were exactly what I needed. Chaos that didn't come with cruelty. Tension that didn't demand anything in return. She asked about my past only once. We were sitting on the floor of our dorm room, eating cold pizza and staring at the ceiling. "What's your mom like?" she asked. "OFFHANDEDLY. And I paused. I took a breath. "She left me at an airport when I was 15, I said, as if I were talking about the weather. Never looked back. She blinked, silent for a beat. "Jesus," she whispered. "That's really messed up, yeah," I said. "It is?" And then she didn't ask more, just passed me another slice and said, "Well, she's an idiot." It was the most comforting thing anyone had ever said. No pity, no dramatic gasps. Just truth. Months passed. I began submitting my artwork to campus galleries. People noticed. Professors praised my vulnerability. Some students asked if my pieces were about something personal. I never said yes or no. I didn't owe them that. But still, it amazed me how something that once brought me shame had turned into power. The painting I was most proud of was called Gate 23. It showed a blurry crowd of travelers. In the middle, a girl made of light sitting alone, knees hugged to her chest. Her face wasn't visible, but her glow was unmistakable. People stood in front of it for minutes. Some cried. One woman, professor visiting from another school, asked me afterward, "Who is she waiting for?" I looked her in the eye and said, "No one." And that was the truth. Toward the end of my freshman year, I received a message in my college inbox. It was from a Gmail account I didn't recognize. The subject line, "Please read." I didn't want to open it, but I did. It was her, not in the way I expected. No manipulation, no glamour shots. No promises, just words. She said she'd been seeing some counselor, and they suggested writing me a letter. "I know I don't deserve to speak to you," began. "But I wanted to tell you I was wrong." She didn't explain why she left. Not really. She blamed it on emotional damage, on her parents, on fear. But for once she didn't excuse it. She called it what it was, abandonment. She wrote, "You didn't deserve that. You were never the problem." I sat staring at that line for a long time, and then I closed the email. I didn't reply, because I didn't need anything from her anymore. Not her guilt disguised as growth, not her admission of the obvious. I had built my life without her. Summer came. I went home to Julia's. She met me at the station, arms open, eyes bright. She squeezed me like she always did, Tight, warm, grounding. And for the first time, I called it what it was. Home, I said, stepping through the door. She smiled. Yes, baby, it is. That summer, I painted a series called Unchosen Daughters. Each piece was different. One showed a girl made of branches, stretching her arms toward a mother-shaped void. Another had a child standing in a burning house, holding the match. I didn't paint to process anymore. I painted to witness, to say, this happened. I'm still here. One night I found myself going through the old letters again. The ones I didn't burn. The ones I'd written in airports and spare rooms and bathroom stalls, when it all felt too much. There was one I had never opened. A letter I had written to myself. It was dated the week after the airport. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. Dear me, I don't know if we're going to survive this. I don't know if you'll ever feel whole again. But if you're reading this, that means we made it. And maybe, just maybe, we learned how to love ourselves the way she never could. I cried. Not out of pain, but pride. Because she was right. We made it. Today I teach part-time at a community center. Kids come in after school, some broken in places I recognize. We paint, we talk, we don't pretend everything is okay. And somehow that makes it okay. One girl, maybe 9 or 10, once told me, my mom doesn't want me. I knelt down beside her, looked her straight in the eyes and said, that's about her, not you. And when she cried, I held her, because I know what it feels like to be left behind. But I also know what it feels like to be found, not by the people you thought would love you, but by the ones who choose you. Every single day, if I could say one last thing to her, my mother, the woman who gave me life but never really lived it with MIT, would be this. You lost a daughter, but I didn't lose myself. You tried to disappear, but I became visible. You abandoned me, and I became my own beginning.